How's it going, everybody? If you have any questions about politics, let me know in the chat, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. There is no such thing as a dumb question, so go ahead and ask me your questions about politics, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. I know that politics can be really intimidating when you don't know all that much about it. So I like to make myself available to people to answer their questions about politics, and they don't have to worry about getting judged. They don't got to worry about getting roasted or teased or debated or anything. I'm just here to answer all of your good faith questions about politics. So hit me up in the chat. I don't believe in making people feel stupid or ashamed for not knowing things. I have felt that way in the past when I didn't know anything about politics, and I would ask my friends questions, and sometimes I got teased for not knowing things, and I do not like the way that felt. So I encourage people to ask questions and begin their journey about learning about politics. And so I am here to answer your questions. Dr. Bob Fanboy says, how do average people combat misinformation? I think the biggest thing, Dr. Bob Fanboy, is you got to talk to people in real life. If you can kind of like separate yourself from social media, the more people that do that, the less power social media companies have. And social media is a massive driver of misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda. So yeah, deleting your social media accounts is a big part of it. But talking to your friends, your family, your neighbors, your coworkers, we have to get this information needs to be corrected in real life by people that already know and respect you. That's the way that it's going to have the most effect. That's what's going to have the most juice. But yeah, as far as like, I don't know, divesting advertising dollars from places like, Fox News and Breitbart and stuff like that, it has some limited, efficacy because those platforms are all backed by the billionaire class, and so they can artificially, fund some of these places even if they don't have the kind of viewership that they would need in order to survive. And these guys get plenty of money out of Russia also, like Tim Pool and his whole coterie of right-wing podcasters. They don't need advertising dollars because they're getting funded by oligarchs in Russia. Party Source 12 says, hello, thoughts on the White House becoming a car dealership? It's pathetic, but it's also like, that's Trump. I don't understand why people who look at Trump and are not bothered by the things that he's doing, like, I don't understand why that's not massively embarrassing, a massive violation of government ethics. I'm pretty sure it's illegal to be doing that. But yeah, he's basically using the power of the White House to prop up one of the companies of the person who donated a lot of money to his campaign and helped get him elected. Like, that's fucking corruption right there, man. That's and it's embarrassing, just like to take a look at, think about the way that the rest of the world sees us, that our president is doing a fucking Tesla commercial on the White House lawn. Like I don't understand how anybody can look at that and think that Donald Trump as a politician or a human being has any credibility whatsoever. Ty says, why should the United States fund Ukraine versus not? That's a bit of a longer answer, Ty, but I definitely will get to that. Let me get to some of these. Let's see here. Who owns BlackRock? I don't know. Has Trump really brought prices down? Is inflation down? Did he get a win? So I have seen both. I haven't seen that he brought prices down. Prices are going up. Inflation is going up. I have seen that egg prices have gone down a little bit, but I also saw an article that said the opposite. So that, I think we still need to wait a little more time to get the data on that. Let's see here. Okay, so thoughts on the United States funding Ukraine versus not. So, here's the long answer for that, is that we have this new sort of like global order that was created after World War II, where we decided that countries were not going to invade other countries. And we created international agencies like the UN in order to sort of like broker peace and agreements between all the various countries that exists. And part of that was you don't invade your neighbors. Russia decided to go back on that. And so in the interest of protecting the kind of global peace that happens when nations work together and don't allow that kind of empire building, the United States and Europe and a bunch of other countries were like, all right, well, we're going to help Ukraine protect itself by sending them money and weapons and, anything else that and any kind of assistance they need, like intelligence and whatnot. Additionally, Russia is an adversarial nation to America. They have attacked us consistently. And so as we fund Ukraine and we assist them, we are decimating the Russian military and the Russian economy. So it just kind of has like positive knock-on effects for America and, global peace in general, and potentially taking down a murderous dictator like Vladimir Putin. It's difficult because, we're not seeing like massive returns on that investment just yet. It's more of like a harm reduction kind of a thing, because if Putin was able to annex Ukraine, then he could potentially annex more countries, potentially entering into a NATO country, at which point we would be contractually obligated to get more involved in that. Even if we weren't, then the rest of Europe would get more involved in that, and that would just escalate things. That's the path to World War III. Funding Ukraine and protecting Ukraine has been pumping the brakes on Vladimir Putin escalating this into more of a global war. So let's see here. All right. But thank you for your question, Ty. I hope that answered it for you. Welcome everybody who just arrived to the live stream. You can ask me anything that you like about politics. I am here to answer your questions. There is no debating or judgment or roasting. I am just here to answer all good faith questions about politics. If you are further to the right than me, if you are further to the left than me, if you're more centrist than me, there's not going to be any tea or shade coming from me. You can ask me whatever you like, and so long as you're asking in good faith, I will give you the best answer that I can muster. And there's no such thing as a dumb question. I don't believe in making people feel stupid or ashamed for trying to learn about things. Let's see here. B. Cole says, what do you think Israel should do? I mean, I think they should stop, annexing Palestine and try to be good neighbors, and then maybe, all the neighboring countries wouldn't be trying to eliminate them. Ty says, what's your opinion on abortion? Things were better when we had Roe versus Wade. Now, there are all these abortion bans in red states that are not only causing harm to women. Some women have died. Some women have lost their fertility. The women who have survived, but were still tortured, like they were still told to go bleed out in the parking lot in order to wait for their condition to get worse enough where they could actually be helped. And that's worse. That is worse than the system that we had previously. If you don't like abortion and you want there to be less abortion or no abortion, then there are other things that you can do. Raising the minimum wage, child care services, family planning, all of these things that Republicans are opposed to. So at the same time as I think that we need to talk about what does the world look like where we are making as many people safe and happy with the system that we have, where women are able to get the abortions that they need or that they want, and anti-abortion activists are happy with the rules around it and whatever guardrails that they think. I think we need to be clear-eyed about how full of shit the Republican Party is about this issue. Because even if people are against abortion, they are for, protecting the life and health of the mother, or exceptions in the case of rape and incest, or things like that. And these Republicans in these red states are like, no. Even though they have those carve-outs have massive support in this country, they're still like, no. And they're doubling down on the awfulness of their abortion bans. Similarly, they are not doing the other things to try to cut down on accidental pregnancies. They are not for raising the minimum wage. They are not for giving people more access to family planning, contraception, or, child care services and stuff like that. So what it really seems like is that what the Republican Party wants is for women to get accidentally pregnant, be forced to have those children, and then to suffer. And then to become desperate. That is what they want, So, part of my big ethos on this channel here is getting people to realize how much worse the Republican Party is than people think it is. And so, even if you do not like abortion, you should still vote for Democrats, because then you can get a more reasonable legislation through that actually reduces the number of abortions and, gives you the carve-outs that you want as far as, putting more restrictions on it for women or, blah, blah, blah. I do not believe that abortion is murder. So I have a different opinion about this, but I also recognize that, we live in a nation of 330 million people, and not everybody agrees with me on this. Let's see here. Right, we got a lot of haters in the comments today. Juris says, what do you think needs to be done about the birth decline? I think we need to help people. Because at the moment, part of the reason why birth rates are declining is because of how difficult it is to live these days. We're all suffering through cost of living crisis. It is extremely expensive to get childcare. If you want to be a couple that has a family, everybody has to have a job. Otherwise, you can't afford food and rent and medication costs and shit like that. So until the government of this country does more to push back on the billionaire class to make our lives actually fucking easier, like maybe they could pay their fucking taxes and we can put that money into social services and bringing down the cost of goods and making housing less expensive and shit like that, But instead, they're like, no, they just want to hoard all the money. They're creating these monopolies so they have full, price controls over everything. They can raise the price or whatever the fuck they want whenever. And they just continue to fucking stomp their fucking boots on our necks. They're just squeezing us and squeezing us and squeezing us until we all fucking lose our minds, And so, yeah, that's why people aren't having kids. How can they fucking afford to? Dazfire over on Twitch says, why does Trump hate trans people so much, and do you think the Democratic Party will sacrifice trans rights to gain votes? No, I do not believe that the Democratic Party will sacrifice trans rights to gain votes. I also don't believe that it is that salient of an issue for people who are like centrist or left-wing people to... They really want to see Democrats throw trans people under the bus and then they're going to vote for them again. I think that's... I think it's like a false... what do you call it? They don't have to do that to start winning elections, is what I'm saying. And why does Donald Trump hate trans people? I think he views it as a political cudgel. I don't think he really gives a shit about trans people. There's a certain type of Republican that is like that, cynical and conniving Republican that's like, I don't really give a shit about immigrants. I don't really give a shit about abortion. I don't really give a shit about trans kids or whatever. I just know that these issues win me votes with my base. And so I'm going to say shit about it. Then there's other Republicans, who are like, I find trans people to be, I don't know, they make me uncomfortable or something. I don't know. And so they're against it because it like gives them that ick, And so, yeah, it's a political football for them. He doesn't really give a shit, I don't think. I just think he's a piece of shit who is throwing them under the bus because it wins him votes, So, yeah. But yeah, no, even if the centrist wing of the Democratic Party tries to step away from trans rights as an issue, or they try to go less hard in the paint for trans people, I think, you will still find the progressive wing of the Democratic Party backing trans rights. And so in all things, in trans rights and LGBTQ issues particularly, even if it's not as good as you want it to be, the Democratic Party is still way, way, way better than the Republican Party. Luke says, thoughts on open Marxism. I don't know what you mean by open Marxism. Like, how does that affect, the general idea of what Marxism is? John Morla, 619, says, are you talking about the same people that couldn't stand for a boy with cancer? Yeah, John, I'm talking about the people who objected to Trump parading a child with cancer on stage during a State of the Union for political points while at the same time cutting funding for pediatric cancer research. I think the Democratic Party was right to do that because it was a disgusting display. It was patronizing, it was exploitive, and the fact that that is not like story number one in America is evidence that the media, both social and mass media, legacy media, whatever, is biased towards not reporting stories that make Republicans look bad. Because that is one of the most stark and obvious examples of blatant jaw-dropping hypocrisy and fucking exploitation that I have ever seen. To parade this kid with terminal cancer on stage, make him an honorary Secret Service member. Oh my God, that's so great. Congratulations. Meanwhile, I am cutting funding for pediatric cancer research. I am removing the potential for there to be new drugs and therapies that save your lives and kids like you in the future. But don't worry, I'll make you an honorary Secret Service member. It's bullshit, man. Like, I don't understand why people are more up in arms about that. It's one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. Melly says, what do you think about Donald Trump talking about the Teslas? I talked about that a little bit at the beginning of the live, Melly, but I'll say it again. It's pathetic. He's embarrassing. It's an obvious violation of government ethics. I'm pretty sure he broke a law there. Like, if somebody donates a lot of money to your campaign, theoretically, the way that government is supposed to work is that that is not supposed to influence the things that you do when you have power in government. But Donald Trump doesn't give a shit about that because he likes to be a corrupt person, a con man who is open to taking bribes. It's the reason why him and the rest of the Republican administration are, cutting regulations and agencies that are specifically going after bribery and corruption. They are making it harder to catch, easier to get away with, more legal, etc. So yeah, the fact that he did that, the fact that he's like, I'm going to help this guy who just put a ton of money into my campaign, who potentially swung the election for me, and I'm going to try to help him sell some more Teslas. Like, it is blatantly corrupt. It is embarrassing on the world stage. It is so just like obviously stupid and unethical. Like, I don't understand why we need more than this. You know what I mean? Let's see here. John Morla says election wasn't even close. It was close. It was only like 1.5%. Flowbot says the haters are out in full force today. Yep, that's how you know I'm doing a good job. Patrick Scholl, thank you for being a patron member. I really appreciate that. I called my congressman 12 times today. If we don't speak up, nothing will change. Patrick, you're doing the work. You're dope as hell, man. Do you watch JRE? I don't know what JRE is. Bob says, like when Obama did a car commercial. Obama didn't do a car commercial. I don't know what you're talking about. Let's see here. Easy Dinero says, Musk wants to control how we obtain information. Yeah, that is the goal of the billionaire class and the Republican Party that is working hand in hand with them, is to, make sure that Americans are not watching the actual news. They're only getting their information from Twitter, from right-wing spaces like Fox News and Breitbart. And, they think that they can, and they have successfully manipulated other social media in order to, push the narratives that they want to be pushed, So you gotta, be extremely skeptical of everything that you see on social media, guys. Even if the only thing that you're letting on social media is that people that have different opinions than you are jerks, that is also a lie, because that could be a bot. And, I've made this analogy before, but let's say I'm a billionaire who wants to elect Republicans, and I discover that people being harassed by leftists on the internet is going to push more people to right-wing politics and get me more politicians that I own in, government and whatnot, then why wouldn't I create like an army of bots to go out there and pretend to be annoying liberals just to push people out of the party, just to push people further to the right? So yeah, don't buy it, guys. Don't buy the bullshit. Chuck is Barry says, my sister only watches Fox News every day and she is brainwashed. I hope that you're talking to your sister then, and I hope that you can maybe get her news from other places. Dazfire over on Twitch says, do you think Trump is a puppet following someone else's directions? He bumbled about during his first term, but everything this time seems more planned and focused. So it's a difficult question, Dazfire, because there is potentially he's getting his orders from a bunch of different groups of people. Potentially it's just a case of aligned interests. Like, is he under the thumb of Elon Musk because Elon Musk has so much money and power that he can control, a lot of Trump's agenda? Or are they working together because they are aligned in this project of grifting and stealing money from the American people and shit like that? Is he taking orders from Putin, or does he just have the same goal as Putin, which is, all right, Putin, you get to be dictator of the Eastern Europe area, and I get to be dictator of the Americas area. That's why I'm going to take over Greenland and Canada and Mexico and annex the Panama Canal and shit like that. So yeah, it's an open question, but I think the important thing is that it doesn't really matter, because he's doing the things that he would be doing if he was being controlled by Russia, or if he was being controlled by, hostile actors and billionaires who really don't give a shit about actually protecting people in this country or protecting people's lives and making things safe for people and making sure that our water is clean and our air is safe to breathe and our food is safe to eat and our medications are safe to take and stuff like that. It's a big mess, Jerry A. Tricone says, does Trump seriously think he can annex Canada? And if it was Canada or, say, China saying that they're going to annex the U.S., what do you think would happen? Oh, yeah, Dazfire. So you already asked that thing about him being more focused. Also, that's just also, he has a team now that is going to do that. His first term, he had more centrist, regular ass Republicans, even pieces of shit like Jeff Sessions were at least like, yeah, well, we're not going to do all the things that Trump says because he's crazy. He has learned that lesson, and he has purged his cabinet of those people. And so now they have a plan. They know how government works. They've gotten rid of anybody that could stand in his way. So yeah, now they are more focused, and now they are doing more of the things that are terrible. Let's see here. As far as does he think he can annex Canada? I don't know if he thinks that I think he thinks that he can. I don't know what the timeline is for that. I know that he wants to. Because if you look at the way that dictators and fascists work, part of what they do is expanding their empire. He wants the world to be like, the way that organized crime carves up cities. Like you get the South Side, I get the West Side. He thinks that dictators and oligarchs should be able to carve up the world, where Russia gets, Europe and Eastern Europe, and he gets, America and South America, that part of the hemisphere, So, yeah. Yeah. I don't know what the timeline is for that. I don't know if, things will get, if people get activated and they do the work of stopping Trump and his administration and making Republicans pay a price for not standing up to him and, completely being absent at the wheel of the things that they're supposed to be doing as far as protecting the government programs that they voted for and voted to fund and shit like that, then we can stop that from happening. But, if things just keep on getting worse, if Republicans get more vote share, if, they are able to completely terrify the, media organizations into not publishing negative stories about them, if they're able to steal elections and stuff like that, then we're going to be worried about potentially invading Canada. More or less says, you just explained Biden. I don't know what that means. Devin Ali says, does anybody know what this war is all about? I really don't think people know. What war are you talking about? John Morless says, do you think Biden was asleep at the wheel? I don't, But here's the other thing, is I don't really care because the things that his administration were doing were great. So I can go through a fucking laundry list of things the Biden administration accomplished that were incredible, transformative, great for the world, great for the American people. If he did that, or if his staff did that, I don't care. Let's see here. John Morla says, letting all people in. Yeah, he didn't have an open border, John Morla. You please get your news from other sources. There's no such thing as an open border. Catherine says, have you spoken about the Columbia student arrest? I haven't, and it's terrifying. This guy who is here legally gets detained by ICE for saying something. This is a blatant violation of his First Amendment rights. And basically what Trump is doing is he is trying to create an environment where people are afraid to speak out against him, where you can be thrown in jail and fucking disappeared to another state, regardless of if you're a citizen or a veteran or a Native American or here legally, just because you expressed an opinion that he does not agree with. It is terrifying. It is a blatant violation. They're doing the moves. They're all doing the moves. I just saw that Kash Patel is going to start looking into, bringing up charges or investigating climate organizations. Yeah, it's fucking authoritarian bullshit 101, guys. They took this dude away from his pregnant wife, who is supposed to be giving birth in a month. They could have detained him in the same city as his wife so that she could at least fucking visit him. But no, they decided to fly him to a different state. I think he's in Tennessee or Louisiana or some shit like that. Yeah, everybody who's a fucking free speech warrior in the fucking podcast-averse who's talking about you can't say anything these days, blah, blah, blah. If they don't fully go to bat for this kid, they're completely full of shit. And I'm talking about your Joe Roganses and shit like that. The guys are like, I'm for the First Amendment because I should be able to say the N-word and make fun of gay people in my stand-up routines and shit like that. But meanwhile, they're looking at the most blatant violation of First Amendment rights, of literally using the government to punish speech, that's the whole fucking thing, guys, So yeah, if those guys don't go to bat for this kid, I mean, I've known for a long time that they're completely full of shit. This is just more evidence of that. Gar Goyim says, oh, he was legal? He was. He was a legal green card holder. Catherine says they're trying to make it harder for his wife and family. Yeah, it's a system that they call petitioning the king, where they do these things that are illegal and wrong, and they make it difficult for anybody to reverse these things unless you ask Trump, like, directly. Like, would you please make it so that my wife can visit me, please? I'll tell everybody you're a great person and blah, blah, blah. It's disgusting. James says this guy looks like he wants to cry. No, I can see why you might be confused about it, though. I made your mom cry last night. Let's see here. Richard Lamar says, do the crime, do the time. He hasn't committed a crime. He hasn't been charged with a crime. I have no idea what you're talking about. Jamal, 4 gay thoughts. Both parties have extreme racist positions on the border. That is not true. Jamal, 4 gay thoughts. Gar Goyim says he's crying. Okay. Let's see here. As a Canadian, I can tell you he'd have to pry it from my cold dead hands. Good for you, Canada. Let's see here. Matt MCA says he is a legal permanent green card holder who has constitutional rights. How do Americans not know? Because propaganda, my man. Propaganda is a hell of a drug. People, they're getting their information off of social media. They're getting their information off of right-wing news sources that are completely clouding the issue with bullshit, non-factual, misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda, my man. Rocket Fuel says, did Trump block immigration bill during Biden's presidency? Yes, he did. That is evidence number 1 in 1,000 pieces of evidence that suggests that the Republican Party has zero credibility on immigration. They don't really give a shit about solving this problem. They just want to use it as a political cudgel. They want to blame problems that are caused by billionaires on immigrants and trans kids and poor people. And so, yeah, they're not going to fix shit, People talk about, like, oh, I just want them to come the right way. That's the only, I just want them to come the right way. Well, the first thing that Trump did when he got into office was he made legal immigration almost impossible. Unless you are a wealthy person, it is extremely difficult for you to legally come to this country now. So he just took, I don't know how many thousands or millions of people who were in the process of trying to come here legally and turned them into people who now are going to seek illegal ways of coming into the border. So Trump has increased illegal immigration. Congratulations, everybody. Let's see here. Okay. All right. Gar Goyim says, you should let them stay with you if you care so much. Okay. Quinn Boozman says, proof. What kind of proof did you want? SD Firefighter 17 says, who cares? They don't deserve to be here. Who deserves to be here? You're probably an immigrant. Almost everybody that is here is an immigrant. So I don't know what you're talking about. Mr. Krabs says, you have no valid arguments. That's not true. Tim says, what about Invincible versus Cecil? I'm talking about American politics in this universe, not the Invincible universe. Let's see here. Nancy Munaz says, don't deserve? That's silly. I completely agree with that. Let's see here. Quinn Boosman says, what about Biden pardoning his son? I don't think that presidents should be able to pardon anybody. So I do not think that that was a good thing that Biden did. I don't care, though, because if I'm going to get mad at presidential pardons, there are 1,000 that came out. There are more than 1,000, actually, that came out of the Trump administration that were worse. That were way, 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 way worse. You don't like that Biden pardoned his son? What about Trump pardoning his son-in-law's dad? What about him pardoning Sheriff Joe Arpaio, who was torturing people? What about that dude who was doing fucking war crimes in Afghanistan and his entire company said this dude belongs in jail because he's a fucking murderer? He was straight up murdering civilians in Afghanistan. Trump pardoned that guy too. He pardoned a cop killer. He pardoned a drug dealer. And obviously he pardoned 1,500 January 6th rioters, some of whom fucking beat police officers within an inch of their life. They attacked our Capitol. They were planning to, zip tie elected members of the government. And he just pardoned all of those people, In addition to that being wrong, it is also, letting his base know that if they do violence, the kind of violence that he likes against Democrats, against news organizations, that he's going to have their back. And he's cool with that. And that does not make America better. That does not make America more safe. Let's see here. Daz Fire over on Twitch says, who on the left side, aside from Sanders, AOC, and now Tim Walz, are actively doing anything meaningful to fight this administration, in your opinion? There are lots of Democrats. I am fucking so over this narrative that Democrats are doing nothing right now. Like, fucking, Chris Murphy and, Senator Schatz are out there fucking doing the work and explaining to people what is going on, and they're talking to people and they're activating people, and AOC and Jasmine Crockett and fucking there are tons of Democrats that are doing the work. Is it like coordinated by Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer? No. Do you not like what they're doing? Fine, I don't give a shit, but they're doing things. Maybe they're not the things that you want. But again, guys, criticisms of the Democratic Party, no matter what they do, they get shat on. They do too little, they get shat on. They do too much, they get shat on. They're too far to the left, they're too far to the right. As a party, they're like Schrodinger's political party, where they're at all times both too far to the left, too far to the right, doing too much and doing not enough. So yeah, it's every day I see more evidence of how uneven the playing field is between the two parties, where the Republican Party is parading a kid with cancer out on stage and at the same time cutting funding for pediatric cancer research. And for some reason, we are more angry at Democrats doing not enough with their zero political power that we voted for other people to have. The American people voted for Republicans, and then they started yelling at Democrats, like, why aren't you stopping the Republicans? And it's like, well, maybe if you had fucking voted for us, we would have the ability to stop this, So yeah, fucking show up and do the work. If you want Democrats to do more shit, give them political power, and they will do more shit. And if you don't like the things they're doing, call their office. Fucking hound them, annoy them. That's fine. I don't care about that. But you're going to make videos about how spineless and ineffective the Democratic Party is? Like, what do you want them to do? I like the work that they're doing. Maybe it's not enough. Maybe some of them aren't going as hard in the paint as I want them to, but they're doing stuff. And there are people in this country who think that people like Bernie Sanders and AOC and Jasmine Crockett are going too far. There are people in this country who are like, Representative Al Green, he crossed the line. That was really inappropriate what he did during the State of the Union. Meanwhile, there are other people on the left who are like, all the Democrats should have done that, So yeah, I don't rate any of these arguments about Democrats being bad at messaging or being feckless or ineffective or whatever, because again, Democrats never get any credit, Republicans never get any blame. Let's see here. Klaus Root says, how can Trump just pardon a bunch of people? It's just because presidents have that power. It is completely ridiculous power that has absolutely no ethical guardrails to it whatsoever, Normally, a president has a group of people that they go through all the people they want to pardon, and they talk about the potential ramifications and how does this look? Does this look okay? Does it seem like I'm being a shitty person by pardoning all these people? Is this the right move here? But Trump is just like, yeah, I'll pardon that guy. Fuck, pardon that guy. Him and Giuliani were selling pardons for $2 million a piece. Give that a Google, if you want to get mad about something. Gar Goyam says, won't answer the Israel question. Which side are you on? I am on the side of the citizens of both Palestine and Israel, and I am against both the right-wing government of Israel and Hamas. I think that both the governing bodies of both Israel and Palestine are in the wrong here. And the citizens are just trying to fucking live their fucking lives. And both sides are doing war crimes against the other. It's fucking disgusting. Let's see here. Catherine says it's in the Constitution. It's left over from British kings. Yeah. Gar Goyam says won't answer the Israel question. I literally just did. Andrew says war is terrible and agree. Both are wrong. Yeah. Robert says, who you vote for? Democrats up and down the ballot. Bro Rogan says, wah, wah, wah. Okay. Your mom made that noise last night. Let's see here. Dan Blackroyd, good to see you again. Thank you for being here. Matt MCA says, what do you think about Russia's ceasefire demands? I'm not in the weeds on what these negotiations are looking like for the ceasefire. I just know that Russia is asking, Russia is going to ask for too much. They're not going to abide by the agreement because they know that Trump has their back. So what their plan is to slowly, whittle away at American support, like the, frog boiling in water analogy, so that people don't get up in arms when we completely leave Ukraine out to dry and we start supplying money and weapons to Russia. Eat the Rich says, will we ever get our tax on no tips and no tax on it? We will if you vote for people that are down for doing that. But here's the thing, and I want you guys to keep your fucking eyes peeled for this, because this is the fucking move here. Republicans are talking about the whole no taxes on tips thing, right? But they're also classifying tips as it could be like a guy who works for a hedge fund getting $50 million as a bonus. Suddenly that guy wouldn't have to pay tips anymore. So whatever bill they pass that has that in it, look for that language. And look for the Democrats who are pointing that shit out. But yeah, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. No tax on tip, no tax on overtime. So vote for people that want to do that shit. Vote for them in the primary. Vote for them in the general. Let's see here. Andrew says, what do you think about Zelensky's situation and Biden giving $300 billion and Zelensky wanting to join NATO? I mean, I've already talked a little bit about this. I've already talked at length about the whole Ukraine war thing and like why it is advantageous for America to have Ukraine's back in this situation. But yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, I think we were right to support Zelensky in Ukraine. And yeah, I think that the way that Trump and Vance treated him in the Oval Office was pathetic and embarrassing. So yeah. Gary Goyam says, what do you think of rabbis sucking babies' D's? I mean, you're talking about like an Orthodox Jewish practice of like when a child is being circumcised, then they lick the wound. It's a very old thing that happens. I don't think it happens that much anymore. I think it's only like the most strict Orthodox communities that even happens in. I think it's kind of gross, but it's fucking religion. What are you gonna do, man? People in religions do weird things. Tanner says, I think we should implement a tax that's optional for you lunatic Dems to donate. Then we'll see. Cool, you really got me there, Tanner. Gary Goyam says, should it be banned? I don't know, maybe. Dazfire, it really doesn't seem like the most prescient political issue of the day, Gar Goyam. Dazfire, if you had to choose someone to be the 2028 Democratic presidential candidate today, who would you pick? Dazfire, I really appreciate you being on the live stream, but I am staunchly against wish casting 2028 when we've got special elections coming up on April 1st, 2 in Florida, 1 in New York, and we've got the midterm elections happening in 2026. And winning these elections is paramount to give Democrats more power in government so they can actually do the things that people have been yelling at them to do. We need to put more, guardrails on the Trump administration because the shit they are doing is terrifying and lawless, and it is hurting a lot of people, and it is threatening to take away every American's fucking civil liberties, right to free speech. You can just be disappeared by fucking ICE, regardless of if you are a citizen or a fucking veteran. That is terrifying. So let's give Democrats some more fucking political power. Let's fucking run the table, man. Give them the Senate, give them the fucking House, and they can put a stop to this shit. And we can actually start protecting our citizens again and not be a fucking joke on the world stage with our economy in the fucking tank. Catherine, yes, please go out and vote in special elections. Completely agree. Daily Hellies says Social Security. Yeah, Republicans want to cut it. They want to take that money and give it to their rich buddies instead. Let's see here. Turtle Herder, what's up with calling SSDI an entitlement that needs to be cut? Republicans want to cut services that help the 99% and below. It is their modus operandi. They love it. Getting rid of USAID, getting rid of the Consumer Financial Protection Board, firing IRS agents, getting rid of Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, cutting welfare, not staffing the EPA with people that actually want to protect the environment. Like, these are all things that Republicans are doing to actively dismantle the government and ruin people's lives in the 99% and below. So yeah, that's all just part of it. Oh man. MagaVerse says, if I send you some useful documents via DM Am I wasting my time? What do you mean by useful documents? MAGA averse Chad. I try not to click on links from people that I don't know, so there's just a little, information there for you. Zoe, just joined. Are you Trump or Kamala? I'm a Democrat, so I'm Democrats up and down the ballot. Zoe. Andrew, people should look up USA and tax history, how it wasn't implemented temporarily and never left. Sure. Yeah, learn history. That sounds good. By the numbers says, what are your thoughts on Curtis Yarvin and the Dark Enlightenment? That's a little over my head. I don't know who that person is or what that thing is. Gargoyam says, you ever watch... all right, Gar, you're starting to annoy me. No Dodo, good to see you again. How do you feel about the no tax on 150K and below? No taxes on people earning less than $150,000 a year? That seems pretty cool to me. I mean, I guess I would worry about funding the government at that point. But I mean, if we're increasing taxes on people that make more than that, so that people who make less than that can have some sort of, easier financial life, then yeah, I'm for that. Spicy Girl, are you MAGA? No, I am not. MAGA averse. But yeah, tell me what kind of documents you were thinking about sending me, ma'am. I'm curious, at least. Gargoyam says, why won't you answer the question? Should we end foreign aid to Israel and Saudi Arabia? Yeah, I think so. I mean, Israel and Saudi Arabia, as far as I know, Saudi Arabia, I'm pretty sure, have both been found to have committed war crimes. And we already have a law in our books here in America. This is that we are not allowed to send assistance, be it money, weapons, or otherwise, to countries that our governments have done war crimes. So, easy peasy lemon squeezy. Andrew says, how about George Soros? Opinions on him? He's like the one billionaire that goes to bat for the left, where 99% of billionaires go for Republican candidates instead. And he's Jewish, and so both of those are the reason why he gets demonized in right-wing media. Because, number one, he's Jewish, so he's an other, and it makes it easier for people to go like, oh, weird! A weird Jewish globalist who is trying to influence our elections with his billions. But meanwhile, you got fucking... 1,000 other billionaires who are trying to influence our elections by electing Republicans so that they can get their taxes cut and regulations cut so they can poison our water and our air and our food and cut regulations that, hurt their bottom line so that they can become, even more wealthy and create a desperate population that doesn't have any power to organize, and they have to be desperate and take whatever job that they can get and have to work 3 jobs so they have no time to do anything else. And, they'll have 0 legal recourse if they get sexually harassed at work or shit like that. That's the world that the billionaires want. Ria says, so if they defund the Department of Education, will students lose their 504s? I don't know about that, Ria. I'm so sorry about that. User a whole bunch of numbers says, knows nothing about politics. I know lots. You can just listen to the things I said and it will be clear. H says, just got accepted to a great law school and terrified that there will be no FAFSA funds. I think that is a completely fair concern to have, H. The DoD intercepted a Russian troll farm, outlined his strategy on social media, original Cyrillic and English. That's the documents that you wanted to send me? I'm confident that the thing that you just said, MAGAverse, I don't need to be convinced of that. I am already well convinced of that. There's a story that happened in 2015. It came out in 2016 about 2 Facebook groups. One like Heart of Texas, one pro-Islamist group, and they were both created by Russia, but they were able to create enough support for these groups on Facebook that they were able to materialize a very real protest and counter-protest between these 2 groups in Texas. So we know that Russia is doing this. We know that Russia is pretending to be Americans and stoking hatred between various groups of people by, being jerks and saying terrible things and, portraying the other side as being a certain thing and then being the other side and being that thing. So, the fact that we assume that people on the internet are real and are an actual interpretation of what a Democrat is or a Republican is or whatever, we know that Russia is trying to cloud our images of the other side. We know that Russia is trying to get Democratic voters to hate Republican voters and vice versa. We know that Russia is trying to get progressive Democrats to be mad and angry at centrist Democrats and vice versa. We know that Russia is trying to convince Republican voters that the problems, all their problems in life are from trans kids and immigrants and poor people and shit like that. So why are we still falling for it, guys? Like, why are we still out here with our whole ass just playing that game? I was watching, Bill Burr has taken a bit of a hero turn recently where he's talking shit about Elon Musk and all that crap. But he just said this thing about, like, why are liberals so terrified of this guy? And I'm like, who the fuck are you talking about, man? Like, I don't know any liberals who are terrified of this guy. So, yeah, man. Yeah. Just more of the same, man. More of the same. Zoe says, being on Epstein's list should have been reason enough to know Trump is awful. Yeah, completely agree with that. Daz Fair over on Twitch says, I think this madness will provide an opening for Dems to take control of Congress in 26. MAGA folks are getting fired by Musk too, and everyone will be hurting even more due to tariffs. Thoughts? From your lips to God's ears, Daz Fire, but here's my worry. So Trump, his first term, he fucked up a lot, and he hurt a lot of people. Going into 2020, COVID fucking goes crazy. He completely fucks up the response to that, fucks up the economy because of that. 1 million people die. And yet, he still barely lost that election. And Democrats did good. They got the House and they got the Senate. But barely. And I was sitting there like, what the fuck is going on here, man? It is 2020. We're all stuck in our houses. Crime is going up. Violence is going up. Like, what the fuck? And people are still voting for these ding-dongs? Like Trump and Republicans whole. And that is part of the reason why I have developed this idea of, like, how thick in the misinformation and disinformation sauce we are all living. Because even if Trump is actively taking a shit on people's faces, if they are plugged into just the right kind of misinformation, right-wing propaganda, whatever, they will learn through those channels that the poop is falling onto their face from Trump's butt because of immigrants and trans kids. So yes, I think that Trump's policies are hurting a lot of people, including Republican voters, including people that voted for him, including his base. But am I convinced that that by itself is going to win Democrats Congress because people are opening their eyes as to how shitty of a leader and person he is? I'm not confident of that because, again, misinformation and propaganda is a hell of a drug. And maybe if enough people get activated and they can correct all of this misinformation and bullshit and fix some of these narratives that are going on that are specifically existing to hurt Democratic voter turnout and help Republicans win elections, then yeah, maybe. But, we thought that the Dobbs decision was going to win Democrats control of government in 2024, and that did not turn out. So I guess my big, thesis statement here would be don't expect that to happen, make that happen. Don't think that just because Trump is hurting people that voted for him, that they are then going to turn around and then vote for Democrats. We have to do the work. We have to do the legwork. And everybody has to do it. But the good news is that the more people that do it, the less work we each have to do. All right. Kristen says, how do we stop disinformation, especially in cable news? I don't know if we have a mechanism for doing that. But I do know that we can all talk to people in real life. We can talk to our friends, our family, our neighbor, our coworkers, and figure out where they're getting the news from and make sure that you are, pushing the needle back in the right direction. So if you got somebody who's like a centrist, correcting them of any, misinformation that they might have about the Republican Party or the Democratic Party or the economy or tariffs or whatever, I think that's the best way that we can all fight that. I think going forward, if we had a not psychotic administration in the White House, maybe there could be some legislation. Maybe we could include, media literacy in, education, in high school and middle school education. Maybe that would be helpful. But as far as right now is concerned, Billionaires are in control of all media, including social media. And even if a billionaire did not own social media, it is really easy to manipulate social media if you have billions and billions of dollars. So we cannot try to use these tools to try to influence people's political beliefs because they are stacked against us. You know, if you look at, The Daily Show, Colbert, Seth Meyers, Jimmy Fallon, like all of these people, Jimmy Kimmel, all of these people are going hard against these Republican policies and shit like that. But that's not where the audience is, that message isn't getting out because people are still getting their information off of social media. And that is the thing that is infiltrating their noodles and, creating the foundation of their political opinions. World famous Kirk Lazarus says, "Are you like left-wing Tim Pool?" No, because I say things that are real and accurate. I am wearing a little beanie today, though, because I just got back from tour, and my hair looks stupid. I don't like how my hair is looking. I need a haircut. So, yeah, it's actually not doing too bad right now, except I got, like, this weird divot happening here. Nobody else agrees with me that my hair is worse than the hat is, but I don't like looking at my hair when it looks like that, so I wear the stupid hat. All right, what we got here? Sphinx Egyptian. I got 2 Trump voting co-workers turn on Musk by showing Musk's is anti-social security with media. That's great, Sphinx Egyptian. Thank you for doing the work. I really appreciate that. Brogan McGowan says, "Can't be Tim Pool. He actually has hair." Yeah, I think I'm taller than 5'6", too, which I think he's a shorty also. Musk King says, "Your hair looks fine." All right. Well, I'm actually kind of warm, so maybe I'll take this off anyways. Wait. All right. Lindsay Reed, Beginner Beauty, says, "Government shutdown is happening." I have no idea. Nobody knows. Nobody knows what's happening. The Democrats are playing hardball. Chuck Schumer says that he's not going to vote for it unless they come back to the table. They want a 10-day CR that is much closer to just continuing funding the way that it is, as opposed to the Republican bill, which is increasing, I think, the Pentagon budget, but then also cutting other, agencies that help the 99% and below. So yeah, I've got no idea what's going to fucking happen. I've seen stories about how Democrats are holding the line. I've seen stories about how Democrats are folding. I have no idea what's going to happen. But yeah, fingers crossed, guys. And here's the thing. I want everybody to be fucking clear about that this shutdown will be on Republicans if it happens, because they're in full control of the government. All right. Thank you, everybody, for seeing that my hair looks normal. I don't like it, though, Natalie says, "Most Democratic senators I've seen posting today are saying they're not voting for it." I don't know what the right move is here, guys. I'm being completely sincere. We're kind of damned if we do and damned if we don't, because are we going to be putting up the right fight? Are we stopping the Trump administration from doing the thing that it wants to do that's going to hurt the most people? Versus shutting down the government, which is also going to hurt people. It is a difficult political fight, especially because the Republican Party does not mind shooting the hostage being the American people. So they don't care about hurting people. And the Democratic Party does. And so we're sort of like at a loss here, So yeah, I don't know. We're just kind of damned if we do and damned if we don't. I'm worried, guys. Natalie says, "Agree, but they're saying there's too much stuff in the bill that's going to hurt vulnerable people." Yeah, I completely agree with that. I would understand if they voted for the bill, but I think I'm leaning towards they shouldn't. They should, play hardball. Especially because that's the thing that everybody's fucking yelling at them about. Play hardball. All right, let them shut down the government, I guess. MAGAverse says, "Before he stole nuclear secrets and Jared's $2 billion from the Saudis." Yeah, I don't know what you're referring to there, MAGAverse, but yeah, that is 100% accurate what you just said. Dino Max says, "Why is it that politicians won't allow universal health care like Canada? Thanks." Okay, Dino Mac, I'm trying to figure out, it's a big question. So the Republican Party does not want to give people universal health care because they are firmly in the pocket of the billionaire class, and the billionaire class makes a lot of money by keeping healthcare private. The billionaire class wants everything to be private so they can have control over it and they can extract profits that go directly into their pocket from every resource that we have. You know, that's why they want to get rid of the post office, because they want to control FedEx and UPS and be able to force people who could be sending letters for cheap to use UPS and FedEx instead. It's more expensive. That extra money goes into their pocket. The Democratic Party, there are people in the Democratic Party who are also averse to the idea of universal health care for the same reason. You know, like there are Democrats who rely on, you know, political donations from the healthcare industry in order to fund their campaigns. But there are more Democrats who are for more moving towards a public healthcare option or single payer thing than in the Republican Party. So what's the solution to this? The solution is that we need to, I mean, the big solution is getting the money out of politics, because then we would not allow people who have a lot of money, like the, you know, private healthcare industry, to try to influence our elected representatives by being able to fund their campaigns with money. But in the short term, just not only, you got to vote for Democrats, guys, because Democrats will move the football in the right direction. Even if you give us the most centrist Democrats on the planet, they will still move towards making healthcare more affordable, more universal, eventually potentially opening us up to a public healthcare situation like they have in every other industrialized nation. And if the Democrats that you are electing are not going fast enough for you, then primary them. Then vote for somebody in the primary who is more progressive and more about that. It should be noted that there was a public option in the Affordable Care Act, but we had a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate, but we had it exactly. It was 60 senators exactly, and so we couldn't lose a single vote. And so that means that bill, the Affordable Care Act, was controlled by the most right-wing member of the Democratic Senate. And that man was named Joe Lieberman. He was an independent. And he personally killed the public option from the Affordable Care Act. So yeah, if you'd have given us one more Democratic senator in 2008, then, you know, we could have had a public option in the Affordable Care Act. So yeah, guys, just got to vote for more Democrats, you know? Sphinx Egyptian says, are there really 4 types of Democrats in Congress? I mean, as far as I know, it's just the progressive Dems and the centrist Dems. I wonder what the other 2 types are. But I mean, there's also different caucuses. Like there's the African American Congress caucus and the LGBTQ caucus. You know, like that's the thing with the Democratic Party, is that it's a big tent. You know, and we have people with lots of different viewpoints and perspectives and goals, and it is difficult to juggle all of those things. And it is part of the reason why the Democratic Party gets shat on all the time for being in disarray and not able to coalesce around a single message and shit like that, because they're trying to make a lot of different people happy. And yeah, you know, it is reason number 58637 of my million-part series why criticism against the Democratic Party is bullshit, and why Democrats never get any credit and Republicans never get any blame. Sphinx Egyptian says, Newsom is getting hate for podcasts with Bannon and Kirk. I mean, I think it's kind of fine that he does get hate for that stuff. I don't know if it's the move, but, you know, Pete Buttigieg goes on Fox News and does pretty good. Bernie Sanders goes on Joe Rogan and does pretty good. Maybe there is some value to, I don't know, presenting a type of Democrat to that audience. You know, like someone's going to tune into that podcast maybe because they're a Steve Bannon or a Charlie Kirk fan, and they're potentially going to see Gavin Newsom being very reasonable and not crazy. You know, maybe that's beneficial. You know, I think there's a benefit to having people like Bernie Sanders and Pete Buttigieg in right-wing spaces. And so maybe that same thing is happening in that way. I don't love it. That's not the move that I would have done, but, you know, I can understand the argument from, you know, that Newsom may or may not make. Mello says, do you think the 2016 Comey letter tipped the election? Probably. I don't know. You know, all of the polling said that Hillary Clinton was going to run away with that. The polling didn't move that much after the Comey letter. I don't know. It's difficult. There was so much, bullshit on the internet. It was such an unfair media landscape towards the Democratic Party in that election, and Hillary Clinton in particular. Everybody was going so much easier on Donald Trump and giving him so much fucking attention, obsessing over this guy. Yeah, I mean, part of that's the media's fault. Part of that is not really figuring out how to cover him. It's like, I don't know. It's an interesting question, but no, I don't know. Shauna Barry Scott says, do you know anything about the bullet ballots that only voted for president? I don't. Let's see here. Overstreet Family Crew, good to see you again, says, do you think the Senate will stand up and vote no? That's what reports are saying right now, but who the fuck knows, man? User a whole bunch of numbers says, Jarrett lives in a delusional, blissful world. None of the things you just said are true there, because my world is not delusional, and it is definitely not blissful. Lena says, who's leading this Democratic Party right now? I do not believe that there is a leader. I think everybody's kind of just doing their own thing, and I don't think that's a problem, necessarily. All right, guys, I'm going to start wrapping things up. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for all the questions, for all the likes, for all the shares, for all the support, for all the gifts. I got a couple of new Patreon members, and I really want to thank them for being here. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate all the support that you guys give me, whether it is the free kind, like liking and sharing and telling your friends how great my live streams are, or if you can afford to do the financial kind of support, I appreciate that too. But we are all suffering through a cost of living crisis, so I am not going to throw tea or shade at anybody who, is not prioritizing sending me money, when everybody's just trying to survive and, pay their fucking bills and buy food and pay rent and shit like that. But if you go to my website, I've got a Patreon, I've got a store, and you can send gifts on TikTok and Twitch. And I think YouTube, but I'm not 100% sure. If you have any questions that I was not able to get to on this live stream, my DMs are open. You can also email me through my website, jarrettberenstein.com. Tour dates for my stand-up are up on my website, so if you want to come see me do stand-up, that is where you can check that out. And just my heartfelt plea for everybody to get involved in the process. Everybody do the work. Everybody talk to your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers. Join great groups like Indivisible or Run for Something or Vote Save America. People that are already doing this work. Just get out there and help, guys, because we need everybody that we can get. And we need to do this shit in real life. And we need to put political pressure on elected representatives. We need to vote in primaries. We need to find, there are 85 million people out there who could have voted in 2024 and didn't. And we need to find those people and convince them to vote. And we need to find people that voted for Republicans who are not full MAGA people and just convince them that it is better to vote for Democrats, And so if there's ever an argument that somebody tells you about why they don't want to vote for Democrats or why they think both parties are the same or whatever, you can ask me how to handle it because I've been doing this shit for a while. You can even send them my way, send them my channel, man. That's the work that I'm trying to do. Is just trying to push that needle in that direction. Let's get some more people voting. Let's get some more Democrats elected. And then, maybe we can get more people's hands in the process and we can have better voter turnout in our primaries. And then people won't be so pissed off about the people that win the primaries. And then, they will recognize that there is a direct link between the quality of their life and the quality of people that we are electing to govern us, Let's see here. Hyde 2010 says, are you a Republican or a Democrat? I am a Democrat. Trixie and Noodle, any ideas for presidential Democratic candidate in 2028? Trixie and Doodle, thank you very much for your question, but I am staunchly against wish casting for the 2028 election when we have got primaries. We have got special elections coming up on April 1st, 2 in Florida, 1 in New York. So if you live in those states, in those districts, get to work, guys. Let's get those votes, And also we got the midterms in 2026, and winning the midterms starts now. We gotta connect the dots to the things that people are struggling with and the shit that Elon Musk and Donald Trump and Republicans are doing right now. You're worried about bird flu, you're worried about fucking measles, you're worried about fucking Ebola coming in from Uganda. Well, Trump and Elon Musk are actively making it easier for those diseases to spread here in America. Are you worried about all these planes that are fucking crashing into each other and falling out of the sky? Well, Elon Musk and Donald Trump have gutted the FAA, and that is directly related to that. Are you worried about the fact that the Supreme Court just said that it is okay for there to be waste and in our water system? Well, that's some Republican shit for you guys. The things that are people's priorities, their policy priorities, the Democrats, that is their platform. And it is only because the media environment is unfair to Democratic candidates that they never get any credit for the things that they do. And people they don't associate the Democratic platform with Democratic politicians. Where even in red states, they will vote for ballot initiatives that are the Democratic platform, but they won't vote for Democratic candidates who would have literally just done those things for those people, So, yeah. What's up, Level Renee? Good to see you again. Hyde 2010 says, when is the Democratic Party going back to normal? I don't know what you mean by that. What do you mean by normal? Grove Street, do you think the MAGA movement will continue after Trump? Yeah. Yeah, I think so long as there are people named Trump, it'll continue. Like, potentially the base will go to Don Jr. or Ivanka or something like that. But yeah, that is, that's the goal of the MAGA movement is to continue this. They want like a kingship, where the leader of America isn't elected. It's just whoever was born with the Trump name next. Sphinx Egyptian says, we can't get media to show Democrats standing up for farmers and interview farmers who vote for them. Do that show then, Sphinx Egyptian. Get out there with your camera. Hyde 2010 says, you guys have gone so extremely far left. No, we haven't. There are plenty of people on the left who think that the Democratic Party is too centrist. Hyde 2010. Again, the Democratic Party is Schrodinger's political party because they are simultaneously too far to the left and too far to the right and not doing enough and doing too much. Hyde 2010. MAGA averse says Ivanka doubtful, Donald Trump Jr. no shot. I would not discount the value of the name, of the Trump name, to the MAGA group. So yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah. I think it's likely. I don't really see any elected Republican who has the same kind of juice that Donald Trump has. And even though Ivanka and Don Jr. don't have that as well, they have the name. And the name means a lot to those people. Queswick over on Twitch says, are you reading TikTok comments? I assume there's more people on there. Yes, I am. Queswick. I have a lot more people watching on there than I do on Twitch and on YouTube, but I try my best to what do you call it? To switch back and forth. So I'm seeing everybody's comments and comment everybody. Nobody feels left out, Grove Street says, I feel like JD can get the backing. I don't know. He's charmless, he is he doesn't have it, he's a suit. He's an opportunist. There's a reason why the government is being run right now by Donald Trump and Elon Musk and not Donald Trump and JD Vance, because Elon Musk has the thing that Donald Trump has, not any kind of charisma or anything like that, but a way of manipulating the media to make it seem like they are better than they actually are. And JD Vance does not have it. Hyde 2010 says the Democratic Party cares more about social issues than the well-being of average working Joe. That is completely untrue, Hyde 2010, and I would love for you to ask me to expand on that, because I'm happy to. It's the Republican Party that cares more about social issues, They are the party of kicking trans people so that you think that they're looking out for you, and at the same time cutting the government services that their voters actually count on. So yeah, Hyde 2010. Ask me to expand on that. All right, I think I'm gonna start getting out of here, everybody. But yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. My regular streaming schedule is Tuesday through Friday, starting around 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Have an excellent Thursday, everybody. Tyler Gargus says, don't leave. William Peters says, expand on that. You'll have to be more specific. All right, let's see here. Republicans make social issues forefront by strawmanning Democrats. Completely agree with that. You guys are so sweet. You guys are so sweet. Carlos Perez, hi Jarrett, what's your go-to In-N-Out order? It used to be just a burger and fries, but In-N-Out is a huge donor to the Republican Party, and so even though I have been a In-N-Out stan since I grew up here in Los Angeles, I am no longer going to be supporting that organization. And even though I think it is an inferior burger and fries, I would be going to Shake Shack going forward. All right. What do you want me to expand on, William Peters? I am not a Zionist. I don't know what that means exactly. Tariq90, you said, are you a Zionist? So I think there's a bunch of different ways that you can define a Zionist. Like, you're the kind of person that believes that Israel should be completely fine. It should be totally okay for them to completely annex Palestine and treat the Palestinians as second-class citizens. Are you a Zionist if you think that, if you are against the complete and utter destruction of Israel, despite the fact that there are just regular-ass people living in Israel who just want to live their fucking lives and aren't trying to do war crimes against the people of Palestine, you know? So yeah, I'm not really sure. Because I'll tell you what I feel about Israel and Palestine, but I don't know if I want to boil it down to just like I'm a Zionist or I'm not a Zionist. 1 p.m. Eastern time. Let's see here. So if it's 11:30 a.m., 12:30 a.m., I think it would be 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. All right. What power do federal judges have over the GOP? I keep seeing them blocking actions. It's an open question, Grove Street. What power do federal judges have over the GOP? So these judges are blocking things that Trump and Musk and the GOP are doing. There will be appeals. Those appeals will get blocked or they will get accepted. These cases will eventually go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is extremely right-wing. 3 of the 9 judges were sat by Donald Trump. And, you know, Alito and Thomas are even more extremist than those 3 are. So it's an open question, and it's really scary to think about. It's scary to think about, is the Supreme Court going to back Donald Trump and Elon Musk's illegal takeover of the American government? And if they stand up to Donald Trump, will the Trump administration attempt some sort of like judicial coup and say, like, try enforcing your order, Supreme Court? It's terrifying. It is very concerning. But yeah, at the moment they can do things like, you know, force them to reinstate funding to certain government agencies and fulfill certain contracts and stuff like that. But yeah, it's an open process. It's a moving target. All right, I thought I had more gas in the tank, but I do not. So I'm going to get out of here, guys. Fluke Me 24 says, you're calling SCOTUS extremist? Yeah, that is the least controversial thing I have said on this entire life. The right-wing Supreme Court is extremist. It is so far beyond the pale. Talk to anybody who's like serious about the law and ask them to describe the lawlessness and the complete fictionalization vibe sessions of the Supreme Court under the current extreme right-wing version. You know, it is yeah, it's terrifying. I got no more gas in the tank, guys. I gotta go. All right, talk to you later, everybody. See you tomorrow. Have a great Thursday. Goodbye. 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 Goodbye.